Good day, everyone. Today we're diving into a significant development from Washington as the United States government announces a crucial extension to its policy concerning Russian oil. In a move aimed at stabilizing global energy markets, the US has prolonged the easing of sanctions on Russian oil for an additional month. The backdrop to this decision is the ongoing surge in global energy prices, heavily influenced by the conflict involving Iran, a war initiated by the United States and Israel. To counteract these rising costs, the US previously introduced a temporary waiver on sanctions targeting Russian oil. This measure is now being extended, with the current iteration set to expire on May 16th. It follows a 30-day regulation that concluded on April 11th. This specific exemption permits the purchase of oil products originating from Russia that were loaded onto ships as of last Friday. The extended waiver is broad in its scope, even covering vessels belonging to what is known as the Russian shadow fleet. However, there are clear exclusions. Russian oil deliveries destined for Iran, Cuba, North Korea, and territories occupied by Russia in Ukraine, including Crimea, remain under strict sanctions and are not covered by this temporary relaxation. This strategy is a direct attempt by Washington to dampen rising energy prices, which have seen a significant global increase since the commencement of the war against Iran. However, the decision has not been without controversy, particularly within Europe. Many European nations view this action as potentially undermining ongoing efforts to financially cripple Russia, thereby hindering their ability to fund the war in Ukraine. Ursula von der Leyen, the esteemed President of the European Commission, has publicly voiced her concerns, stating unequivocally that now is not the appropriate moment to loosen sanctions against Russia. Conversely, a spokesperson for the United States Treasury Department defended the extension, explaining that the objective is to ensure that oil is available for those who need it. Interestingly, this extension comes just days after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had indicated that Washington would not prolong the exemption. This shift in policy is partly attributable to the domestic political landscape in the United States. President Trump and his Republican Party are currently facing considerable public discontent over the surging energy prices. With midterm elections rapidly approaching in November, where President Trump's party aims to defend its majority in Congress, the pressure to alleviate economic burdens on American citizens is immense. Furthermore, diplomatic sources indicate that several partner countries of the United States applied significant pressure on Washington during recent international meetings to extend this crucial waiver. These nations also rely on stable energy markets and were likely concerned about the broader economic ramifications of a tightened oil supply. It is important to remember that the United States has had sanctions in place targeting the Russian oil sector for many years. Under normal circumstances, countries and companies that engage in business with Russia's oil industry risk becoming targets of US sanctions themselves. This current waiver represents a temporary deviation from that long-standing policy, highlighting the immediate and pressing economic considerations faced by the Trump administration. The ongoing debate over these sanctions reflects a complex balancing act. On one hand, the desire to support global energy stability and manage domestic economic pressures. On the other, the imperative to maintain international pressure on Russia regarding its actions in Ukraine. As May 16th approaches, the world will be watching to see if this temporary measure proves effective in achieving its intended goals, or if further adjustments will be necessary in this volatile global landscape. Thank you for tuning in. What's your take on Trump administration extends Russian oil sanction waivers? Share your view in the comments. Do you think this will matter in the next news cycle? This video was generated using artificial intelligence.